Welcome everyone to WITI's monthly Lunch and Learn for WITI Tampa Bay. We're very excited that everyone's here with us today. I will introduce our amazing speaker, and then we'll go around doing a little bit of intros. Just tell us who you are, your job, what you're doing, and then where you're coming in from. And after that, we'll go right into it. So I am very happy and honored to introduce Monique. Monique is a colleague of mine. We both work for TD Synnex. She's a senior director of engineering, and she is going to have an amazing conversation. I don't want to burn it, but I think she has a really cool topic that everybody, no matter where you are in your career, is going to benefit from. So, Monique, do you want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit more?
Thank you so much, Marianne, and thank you all for allowing me to join your Lunch and Learn and talk about a few things with you today. As previously mentioned, I am a senior director at TD Synnex of engineering and IT. It has been quite a journey. I'm going to share a little bit of that journey with you all. A little bit here this afternoon, and I will leave it at that. And I'll do further introductions of myself as we talk. Okay.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
I'm just going to go down the list. So, Margarita.
Okay. So hi, I'm Margarita Michael, Senior Manager Client Projects here at NTT in the US region. I'm coming from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Been with the company about 26 years now. I grew up here. And running a team of about 16 folks that perform the project management and program management for our managed services. And working with TD Synnex on one of our programs right now.
Welcome, welcome. All right, and let's go on with Charina. I hope I'm saying it right. Sorry if I'm not.
You're good. Nice to meet you, Marianne. Good afternoon, everyone. Sharina Padilla with Engineered Tax Services. We focus on tax incentives and tax credits, like research and development tax credits. I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida. I've been with the company for 14 years and happy to be here and meet everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. We'll do a couple more and then we'll save some for maybe in the middle or after, just so we can get to this amazing talk. So Cindy, welcome. I think you're on mute.
Almost.
Okay, I could not get out of the mute. So I'm Cindy Mangeni. I'm French, but I live in Miami, Florida. I'm a former tech executive. Back in the day, I was working a lot with tech data when it was tech data, and I'm a current and now I'm leading a consulting firm, leadership development and strategy, working at the intersection of the future of work, leadership, and diversity.
Excellent. Thank you and welcome. All right, let's get with one more. Ms. Veronica Lane, hello.
Hello there, everyone. Sorry for my tardiness. I was on another Zoom.
All good. We're just doing where you're calling in from and what do you do for a living?
Excellent. Well, thank you. I am in Tampa, Florida, and I am a project management specialist. I do have a company called Veronica Lane Consulting, and we can focus in on training project management to all of the different sectors, sometimes private label, sometimes we're focusing in on the private sector, and of course the public sector as well. I believe that project management is the core of everything that we do, yet most people don't know how to do it. And I make sure that as many people as possible can feel confident in managing their projects.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, because I'm so eager to get to this talk, so I'm going to hand it over to Monique, and you can take it away, give us your talk, and I'm sure there'll be some time at the end for questions and answers, and we'll get to know a lot of the.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Marianne. I would like for this to turn into a conversation. So I'm going to do this presentation to you. It's going to be mostly pictures and me talking, but then we're going to hopefully be able to have some conversation. As I said earlier, I am with TD Synnex, and I've been with the company for around 17 years. I reside in Clearwater, Florida. And before I came to TD Synnex, I was a selling engineer at one of our customers. So it has been quite a journey, and I sometimes sit back and I reflect on that journey and that has already occurred, and then I think about the next steps and what that journey is going to look like for me as I proceed. I think it's very relevant topic for all of us, probably, no matter where we're at in our career, our business, and et cetera, our journey. What we're going to talk about, and hopefully I'll learn a little bit from you. Maybe you'll learn just a teeny bit from me. But what we're going to talk about is how we think as we map out our journey. So let me know if you can see my screen here.
Yep, we can see it.
All right. So the reason I say journey again, instead of, let's say, trip, for example, is because a journey is not short like a trip, and it's much more significant. You usually have a lot of experiences. You know, you think about it when you plan a trip with your family, it's more so like a journey, especially if you're going to get in the car and you figure out where you're going to go. If it's cross country, you're going to stop here, go to this museum, go to this park, and etc. It's an experience. It's not just about getting there quick. So on this journey, it's about this experience. And I've had a lot of ups. I've had a lot of downs, good days and bad days. And what I'm going to share with you next are some tips and tricks that I found that once I've mapped out my journey, that keep me on my path. It's easy to say, this is my goal. This is what my journey is going to look like. And then sometimes we find as we start that journey, we get derailed or we quit or we give up. But these are things that I've kind of pulled and grabbed into my day-to-day life, and I try to hold on to. So I'm going to start with the first one. Define success. So I remember right out of high school, college, and et cetera. And I even further than that, even starting at TD Synnex a long time ago, I really want to be successful. I want to be successful. And I have adult children, and I talk to them about this all the time. And I'm like, what does success look like for you? So being able to clearly articulate what success looks like is super important in our journey. If you don't know what destination you're trying to get to, sometimes we can go in circles and, we're never satisfied. So understanding and defining what success looks like is absolutely important. That's one of the biggest puzzle pieces, if you ask me, to getting to that point of success. So we have to define what success looks like. That is more than just saying, I want this title. I want this car, this house, this, etc. It has to go a little bit deeper, and we have to have some self-reflection on what that success looks like. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say that as we grow as professionals and our personalities and our perceptions change, so does how we define success. So in my early 20s, how I define success, my early 30s, my early 40s, how I've defined success has evolved. And that's okay too. And understanding how you define success is changing, recognizing that, and then altering your journey is super important. Okay. So I think that's like step one. You're on a journey. Make sure where you're on a journey to, you understand that and you define success. Number two, there's dangers of comparing yourself to others. Social media, I'll tell you, it does something not only to, our teenagers, young adults, but anyone. And I tell people all the time, we have to stop comparing our real life to someone else's highlight reel. That is very, very dangerous. It's important whenever you're on your own journey to, I believe, maybe compare yourself to who you were yesterday, last month, against your own goals, because there's dangers in comparing what people post on LinkedIn or what your friends are telling you, because you don't know what happened behind the scenes. You don't know how they feel when they lay their head on their pillow at night, and etc. So you have your journey. You have how you've defined success. You have how you know what you want to be in life. Compare that to that's the comparison that you should make, not to other people. There's a lot of dangers in doing that. And it's a lot of those dangers mean that you'll never be satisfied, because those are highlight reels. Those are blips, little clips of what people want to share. Those aren't real life. So there's a danger in comparing yourselves to others, and we should not do that. Let's compare ourselves to our goals. Number 3 is hindsight's always 2020. That's true. And I recognize that hindsight's always 2020. You know, in this picture right here, I love showing some of these pictures here, because you'll see that in front, the windshield, it's kind of blurry, right? And that's sometimes how it feels when we're on our journey. It's a little, but then you look back and it's just clear as day. And that's because you've gone through it, you've been through it, and you can look back and say, oh, I wish I could have done would have, could have, should have done, type of deal. That happens to a lot of us. And it's okay to recognize that hindsight's 2020. However, you can reflect on the past, but you can't focus on the past. You know what I mean? So think about it. You're on a road. Can you drive successfully staring in the rearview mirror? There's no way. If you glance in the rearview mirror. So reflection of the past is just that. You reflect, you glance, and then you focus on the future. The past, you're going to be able to see that crystal clear. Quickly look at it, reflect on it, learn from it, bring it into today, and then focus what you've learned into the future. We sometimes pay so much attention on that rearview mirror. We can see a little bit clearer if we focus on the path ahead of us. So we can't get ourselves caught up on the past. We got to focus on the future and just reflect on that past. All right. You got to own your perception. A lot of times, I've caught myself doing this even recently. How are you doing? How's your day going? Is it? And then you'll say, oh, it's horrible. And then or it's this. And it's a moment, and it's a perception, and what I'll tell you is I've put it down to almost a math. Like if you do 100 things a day, 100 things. You put your makeup on, you drove into work, you made your oatmeal without burning it, you got your kids to school, you took the dog on a walk, you did 100 things. Even if 10 things went wrong, that's still a pretty good day. If you kind of did the math, it's still, hitting around 90, 89% or et cetera. That's a good day. So you got to kind of earn your perception around what's good, what's bad. And that's just talking about one day. But in this journey, there's not going to be a perfect journey. That's just not realistic. So we can't just give up because 1 out of 100 things didn't go the way we wanted. We can't just say it was all bad or a horrible plan. We have to really own our perception. And yes, it's okay to be upset if we make a mistake and et cetera, but don't live in that. Again, reflect on it, move on. Another thing is I've realized that I make mistakes and I've held on to those mistakes so long. It then impacts your amount of confidence you have to execute and do a job properly. And the folks that you think are worried about that mistake forgot long ago. Nobody remembers what I had on yesterday, I don't think. And they probably don't remember the mistake that I made yesterday. Even if they did know it was a mistake, they probably aren't remembering that mistake or dwelling on it as much as I am. I am probably my biggest critic, and I have to own my perception of my journey. Because sometimes we can be our own enemy by, saying, oh, this is a bad day and this is not good and everything is going wrong. No, that's perception. Next, knowledge transfer. I love knowledge transfer. I love talking to other people, love networking. It's so important. That's how we grow. We can research, we can read, but the people to people connection and just learning from each other, and not just learning like that organic knowledge of, what's 1 + one, does it equal two? But also learning others' perception and how we engage with individuals and their diverse, ways of thinking is also very, very important. So knowledge transfer and the networking is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, and that I make sure to focus on as I move through my journey personally. I'll tell you that I know my daughter is kind of young, and I've heard her friends talking. And one of the things they say, I'm going to say, and I quote, "I keep my circle like a dot." And so I think that that's supposed to mean that, you don't have problems if you don't have a big network. And so I remember, telling them when they were younger, like, you can't do that. You have to be able to network. You have to learn from each other and not be afraid of, meeting someone who doesn't have the same ideas and appreciations that you do for life and your beliefs, but you have to respect them, right? So we respect each other, we learn from each other. So that knowledge transfer is super important. And I try to stick with that as much as possible. And I think my kids don't like going to the grocery store with me because I always make a friend. I'm looking for that all the time. Also, it's okay to be different. So this goes right into what I was just talking about. So it's okay to be different. We don't all have to, you could be around a bunch of people that are having a bad day. That doesn't mean that you have to perceive that as a bad day. You could be the one person that is bright and that can impact others positively. You don't have to be a product of the environment that you're in. A lot of times you'll hear people from a professional perspective say that this job is X, Y, and Z, and it's, making me feel this way, and it's making it hard for me to, et cetera, et cetera. While that may be true, and that is something that we do sometimes experience on our journey, it is important that we don't allow those situations to change who we are, whether it be happy, whether it be something about us that is valuable and diverse. You don't have to try to pretend, show up as your authentic self. And that is one of the things that I think really was life-changing for me when I figured out that I could show up, and Marianne knows me in the office. I walk in with my blazers and cheetah print inside and bright pink shirts, and I am me, and I'm going to be successful as I am and professional at the same time. And it's okay to be different. I love it, right? So I think it's okay to be different. You don't want to go home being miserable because you were someone else all day at someone's job. You can't do that. Well, you could, but it's your journey. It's your choice. I'm telling you, it's okay. And then I want to just share a couple tidbits. You got to be kind to your mind. There's 6 ways that I'm going to share with you to be kind to your mind. So don't be afraid to say no. This is my new thing. Do you want to go to dinner? No. I'm not giving a reason why. I'm not saying that we're going to reschedule it. I'm not going to say yes and then cancel because it's guilty. With confidence, feel free to say no. There is power in saying no, right? That is okay. Now, I know you say, Monique, you just said in this journey, I need to network. Absolutely. But what you need to do also while doing network is make sure that there's some type of balance. You need to have the ability to practice whatever you want to practice, mindfulness, meditation, whatever your self-care is. You don't have to say yes to everything. Ask for and accept help where it's needed. That's one of the hardest things on my journey that I struggle with, asking for help. So just be able to say, can you help me with this? Be the person also, with this being said, be kind to your mind. It's okay if you're in a meeting on this journey and you don't understand something. It's okay to say, I don't know, I'll find out. Or if you don't understand what someone is trying to say to you, say, I don't understand. Please help me understand that a little bit better. But ask for that help and accept it when someone's trying to offer it. And I've learned that that is a huge, huge, huge part for me that has helped me out a lot, is having people that I'm super comfortable with, that I ask help from all the time, right? So those are my go-tos. Read this email, tell me the tone when I don't want to use AI or Copilot to do it, right? Or then you have the others that are going to help you, mentor you, coach you, and make sure that they help you that way. And then there's just people that can help in general. So kind of build the village of people that can help, right? And then again, I said dedicate some time for yourself and things that bring you joy. And back to the comparing, yourself to others. Sometimes you have to take a break from social media. I do. I know I do. I love social media. I like to watch. I don't post a lot anymore, but I think sometimes you watch so much of other people's highlight reels, it blurs reality. It does. It blurs reality. So you have to be careful of what you're consuming and understanding that. Now, you don't have to necessarily take a break if you understand that. But if you are on social media and you're like, what's going on with my life? And all of those other things, just because of what someone else is posting, I think it's sometimes time to take a step back. So these are like some of the things that I do to be kind to my mind, in addition to some of the other stuff that I said. Again, get your perception on if you had a good day. You don't have to be upset if everyone else is upset. If you want to wear, pink fingernails or bell bottoms, as long as they're professional to work, wear your bell bottoms, be your authentic self. That also helps you be kind to your mind. Just remember, this is your journey. It's no one else's journey. So if we depend on other people to define who we are, how do we think that we're going to be successful in our own journey? So those are the slides that I had, and those are the tips that I have in regards to like some of the things that I've done from a journey perspective. One of the things that isn't up there, and I touched on just a little bit, I saw a complete difference in my journey having the mentors. I think mentorship has been amazing for me. And I always kind of had a mix of mentors. I had the mentor that would say, you put a semicolon in an email, it was in the wrong place, and stop putting periods on bullet marks, and et cetera, was like that with me, right? So I remember having those types of mentors. And then I remember having the mentor that was very nurturing. I needed that nurturing type of mentor at one point in my career. And I've had that. And I've had a mixture. And on your journey, you may need different types of mentors. And it's okay. It doesn't mean you move on from one mentor or, stop talking to one, but it's sometimes very good to have that mentor that is nurturing, and then that mentor that's going to call out everything that you've had go wrong. So I think it's important. And then sponsorship. So that was a key thing for me. Once I heard about it, I didn't know what a sponsor was, and I was just like, a sponsor? What do I need a sponsor for? And it was life-changing, and I've had one ever since then. For about 10 years, I've had a professional sponsor in my life. So these are some of the things that I have focused on in my journey on my career. And now I'd love to talk, Marianne, if it's okay. I like to talk about it. And it doesn't mean that it just has to be questions to me about, my experience. We could just talk about it if that's okay with you.
No, that's perfect. And actually, we have our first question. Veronica, do you wanna say what you have on the chat?
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't.
Oh, no, I've been keeping up. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I just heard you talking about the type of information that you received from others that were helping you on your journey, that was where the coaching versus feedback came from, right? So if you're setting me up for success, then that's the coaching. If you're telling me what I did, that's the feedback.
That's the feedback.
But what about the sponsor? What do they do? What is their role?
Well, I'll tell you this. So my sponsor, I met I'm going to tell you the difference between the sponsor versus coaching and mentor. I guess that's how I'll go towards this. So I met my mentors much more, and it was much more tactical type of relationship with some of my mentors. Again, it was, like you said, some feedback, some this, some that. And some of those mentors I was in meetings with, and they saw how I could improve and et cetera. So they gave me very specific things that I needed to work on, as well as help me with identifying what my goals should be based on some of their experiences and their interactions with me, as well as making sure that they touch base with me on those goals and help me through them. And they were some of the people that I asked for help from. My sponsor, I did build a relationship with the sponsor, but it was a less frequent engagement and meetings with the sponsor. My sponsors were at a higher level in the company and had a seat at the table. So I would say that when it was time to, for me, when there are opportunities that came up, they would have my back in recommending me. Just to be very frank, not from favoritism, but because I've earned that recommendation. I've done the work. I would meet with them and I would tell them what my goals were. And I remember my first sponsor was like, "Huh? You want to do what?" I remember literally hearing that, and it was like, "No, we're not there yet." And so they sponsor accordingly, and they're the ones that have a voice within whatever realm you're in. So that's kind of the difference for me. There was no coaching from my sponsor, except for like, hey, this is what I've been here 3 months and I want to be VP. They're going to be like, absolutely no. So that's kind of the feedback you would get from them. But once you have earned whatever spot and they know what your skill set, your goals, and et cetera. And my sponsors actually, the way that this worked, had relationships with my mentors and would get feedback from my mentors that were also executives to make sure that I was on track for them to sponsor. So that's kind of how it worked for me previously. So as an example, our CHRO of our company is my current sponsor. So I have sponsors at that level, and my mentors are, SVP and above, if that makes sense.
Excellent.
And
Thank
Monique,
you.
just building up on that sponsor, is this a formal conversation that you sit with someone and say, I would like for you to be my sponsor? Or is that just naturally developed? Like, do I, if somebody's looking to get a sponsor?
I think it could be. I've never gone and asked for a specific sponsor. I did one time, actually, as I think about it, had a mentor as they moved up in the company, turned into my sponsor because their job evolved naturally, and they had a seat at the table and they knew my skill set and et cetera. But I think sometimes, I think it's okay to ask. I think it's okay to start with your mentor, though, if we're talking about corporate perspective, and ask their opinion of who would be a good sponsor. Am I ready for a sponsor? Because some of us aren't even, and I'm not saying on this call, but some people aren't ready for a sponsor. And I remember that was one thing that I had to realize, is that especially when you're starting out on this journey and you don't even know what success looks like, a sponsor's not necessarily gonna, put their name, sign their name on a dotted line when you're saying, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not really sure and you haven't done the work. So I think that it's realizing if you're ready for a sponsor through conversations with the mentor first. But I tell you, the last 3 sponsors I had came to me, and they were like, hey, I see something in you. I've talked to your mentors, and I want to be your sponsor. So, I think it's absolutely, I think it shows something, actually, if you go and you have that meeting and you take the initiative to sit down with the sponsor. I think it says something, and the only thing they can do is say no. So,
And it sounds like you can have more than one.
Well, I have had overlap because they've left before, and so they've kind of sometimes handed me off to each other, so to speak. I've only had more than one for a short time. I'll say that. I have multiple mentors. I don't think it hurts if you're able to pull off a couple of sponsors. That doesn't hurt. If there's 10 people at the table and 5 are sponsoring you, that makes it all better. So I think that this is cool. If you could do that, that's a good idea. Actually, I like that.
Oh, awesome. What other questions? Thanks, Veronica.
Thank you.
Other questions or discussions you guys want to have? I
Okay.
know. Quiet group.
This is
It's
cool.
Friday.
That's cool.
Well, I'll ask you a question if no one wants to. So
Uh-oh.
let me ask you, Monique, what I think some sponsors maybe they need to create the space for that to happen. Like you were lucky enough for 3 to come to you, right? But is there anything people could do maybe more proactively to take, right? And not just, hey, do you want to be my sponsor? But maybe there's a better way to connect with those executives, especially as some people work remote now,
Okay.
right? Like keep visibility and that type of thing, right? That's kind of what we try to set up at WITI. So, we can create those coffee, where they water, cooler moment type things,
Yes. I'll tell you. So the very last sponsor, I volunteered, and Dr. Estezana knows that how important volunteering is in some of the organizations and companies. I saw that she's joined, but so I volunteered a lot with our company, and we have different BRGs, business resource groups, and I was the founder of our Black BRG group. I was what is called the chair, the president of the women's BRG group. I did a lot of speaking, a lot of work. And then at one point, our company does believe in servant leadership. I was doing some training around that. So I became a trainer for our leadership team around servant leadership. And so I think it was a little kind of organic how the relationship happened, because I did step out of just the 9 to 5, made sure that I did continue to execute and be as successful as possible in that 9 to 5. And also took on those passion projects, as I like to call them. And I think that when they saw that I was able to, first of all, be successful at my, regular duties and responsibilities, and then take on this passion project with such passion and help implement something that was important to the company. That was one of the things. So I think if there's opportunities to volunteer, if there are opportunities to engage with the company and things that you believe in and that are important to them, such as volunteering for the community. It could be, internally, in any of those types of things. It's a great time. I think that, again, starting with your mentors and making sure that you express the desire to have a sponsor. A lot of times, if those mentors have a seat at maybe not the table that's making all the decisions, but they have a seat at the table that other people have a seat at the table, they can start putting your name out there as well and help you, make the connections with the sponsor. So that's how I got to one of my sponsors, is through a lot of the extracurricular, I'll call it, activities.
You kind of created that, right? They came to you and asked you, but you kind of put yourself in that position through what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yes. And it
That's
wasn't
great.
it wasn't even an ask even. I remember she walked up to me and she was like, I'm gonna work with you. I remember she's like, I'm gonna be your sponsor. It's kind of like one of those types of situations. It wasn't an ask. And I was excited. I was elated that she's done that for me. And you build a relationship. They care about you. She's actually leaving our company soon. So it is something that you build someone that you build a relationship, and they care about you and you care about them over the years, and et cetera. So I do think that the sponsorship relationships can last a lot longer, in my opinion, than I think mentorship relationships do, but last a long time. But what I mean is I've added mentors a lot more frequently than sponsors. I think it's been consistent with the sponsor to be there for long term, but mentors, as you go through your journey and you turn right and you're like, oh, this is bumpy, I need a mentor to help me over the bumps, or I need a mentor to help me go over this mountain, and et cetera. And those are different people.
Have they all been women?
No.
Your 3 sponsors? Yeah.
Oh, sponsors? No,
Oh,
I
the
had
sponsors, right?
yeah. Two women. My first sponsor was a man. My first sponsor was a man, yes. So I'll tell you that is huge to have as a woman. I'll tell you to have a man that is willing to tell you that, hey, we're going to do the right thing by you, and et cetera. I've had some great men that have been allies and just really supportive in my career. There was a situation long time ago, I'm not saying it's at the current company or anything like that, but I remember I was in a situation where I would say something, and the coworker would look at the man that would sit next to me and ask them the same question I'd answered. And at some point, I remember my male coworker looked and said, Monique's saying the same thing. Why are you doing this? Like he had to step up and help me out there. And I can't tell you how important that is, that, for our male coworkers and colleagues that have our backs and really elevate us.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a men's group in WITI now. Those are some of the things to make sure people are standing up for.
Yes. So
and
I think that's amazing. When we recognize the power and the importance that the men play in women's success. And I don't want to butcher the stat, but I know that there was a stat some years ago that there are more men, CEOs with the name, I think Charles or something like that, than women in totality. So if you try to exclude men from this journey that we are on, we're already losing. We need all of those Charlies to help us out. So let's start, with some of that. I think is important.
Hello, Monique. I am here.
Hi there.
Totally right. Monique is a great supporter in our different volunteering events that we have for organizations here at the Clearwater office. I'm so happy to be part of this session. Monique, thank you so much for the presentation. I think it was great. And what I would like to add, if I may, is really do not be too hard on yourself. Because sometimes we do that. And I think it happens more with women. I could be wrong. But if we made a mistake or just didn't accomplish what we were planning for that day, don't be too hard. There is another day, right? And we will do that thing that maybe we didn't have the time to do it, but don't really be hard, on yourself. Yes. Just wanted to add that.
I thank you for saying that. I agree with you 100%. Especially women, I think we are much harder on ourselves because we feel like we're representing all of the other, I know I've said that before and I was like, what have I done to us? You know what I mean? It's also the making sure from a perception perspective, I am being assertive and not aggressive and a this and a that. So we're always analyzing ourselves, overanalyzing ourselves and our successes and what some people might perceive as failures. And so again, I got an A today. I had 5 things that went wrong already. It's 2:00, but I'm still, I have an A day and that's how I feel. And if I ever, feel like I'm having a bad day, I will literally, I know this sounds horrible, take my little handy dandy notebook. You guys, some of you see me walking around with it. I will write down what I've done today. and I'll put an X on what went wrong. And I'm, you know what, Monique, you're crazy. You did 50 things, amazing, big things. You did one thing wrong. And it's so funny when you put it on paper, how you feel. Just sometimes just writing it on paper that you did that much stuff. I used to, Dr. Susanna, I want to tell you this real quick. I used to have something that's called a brag book. We don't print as much anymore, but anytime I got an email that I did something good, or that I got a certificate or a new honor, or whatever it was, you know, even if I just, you know, got a new training, certified in something new, like, or something like that, I would put it in this brag book. And then the other thing I would do is when I did have a bad day, because bad days happen, bad days do happen where, you know, I didn't get an A, I got a D. I would pull out, it was a photo album with the little plastic sleeves where I print all this stuff. And I'd look and I'd flip through as before I went to bed with my red wine. I'd flip through my little brag book and I was like, okay, I'm okay. I can have this bad day because my brag book says that I'm pretty good. So
That's great. That's great. One of the things that I would like to share, Marianne, I don't want you to take the time maybe for other ones that want to ask, but
No, you're okay.
But I really, one of the things that I started since last year is to remove some words from my vocabulary, like failure, right? Because that word really has some really negative connotation, right? Some sense, that negative sense for me. Really, there is no failure. If things didn't work as expected, you learn from it. So what is the failure then?
Mm-hmm.
You learn from them. You get something from it. If you change your perspective, your mind on that, things are really get better and your perspectives change. So there are a few things as well that I do to help me on that. Just wanted to share it with all of you.
No, I like that. I love, yeah. And someone, David said words matter, and I agree. So I like removing failure. Perception matters as well. So we say things like that. Oh, I failed or something. And I try to use quotation marks when I use those bad words. I failed. You're claiming that, when really you just learn how to get better. I don't know. I don't think that Michael Jordan became Michael Jordan overnight. So, well, he didn't call it a failure. He was, growing into who he is today. Imagine if he quit on his journey so far, so early in, when he lost a basketball game or he didn't get that position that he wanted on the team, and et cetera. And he just said, to your point, Dr. Asuzana, I failed. Imagine if he claimed that failure. Michael Jordan wouldn't be who we know today.
Go ahead.
I will share one more thing that my kids will probably, I try not to bring it here. My kids are probably going to cringe if they could hear me say it, because I say it to them all the time. And I say it to my family and everyone. So I just want to tell you, the other thing that I find truly satisfying and it helps me through the day is my motto, like if I had a quote, just we all should try to just leave people, places, and things better than we find them. And so I also try to integrate that into my day-to-day. So when I say the people part, someone's having a bad day, even if you didn't do anything to them, and that cashier at the grocery store is giving you, a little bit of attitude and everything, let's try to leave them a little bit better. Tell them a little joke, or wish them a good day or whatever. Just try to leave them a little bit better than you found them. It's not your fault, but think about how, you could have a positive impact on them. So leave people better than you find them. The places, so I am notorious. If I'm walking and I see litter, I'll pick it up. My kids used to get mad at me, in the grocery store parking lot. I have a thing about shopping carts not being in the thing. So I always push mine back, by the way. But if I see one that's about to bump someone's car, I'll put it up. You don't have to make messes to clean them up, and you don't have to talk about what you do when you do it. You just need to leave people, places, and things better than you find it. And it makes, if everybody did that, could you imagine? And then
We will have a perfect world. I always like to keep reminding myself that the same way we think things happen to us, we also happen to others. So let's be intentional.
I love that.
Yeah.
Say that again. We happen to others.
The same thing that we think that things happen to us, but we also happen to others.
I love that. We happen
So
to
we have to be intentional, because it's not just all about us. Like, we can actually make a difference and do what's right.
I love that. We happen to others. I love that. Yeah, you're right. We happen to others, and you're true. That's very true. So again, you know, you don't have to be the cause of something that went wrong, but you can sure be the fix. And so why not? Like, why not?
Stop blaming and let's just find a solution.
And that's the other thing too. I could talk about this all day, and I don't want to. I don't know, Marianne, if you had something for the end. Is you know, I talked about, like, you saw the smiley face amongst all of the frowny faces, right? And it's sometimes our environment it can be negative. It can outside of work, in our work, our neighborhood, if you have a homeowners association, whatever it is, it can get negative, right? And it's sometimes hard being around a lot of negativity. But what you're saying is true. We can happen to others, and we don't have to be a product of our environment and let that just completely impact us. And we can try to be that beam of light, to lead by example and show the other perception, and not get jaded, you know, and be a victim. So there's certain times where, you know, things aren't going right at work or at home, and et cetera, et cetera. And then it's easy to just say, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm a victim here. You know, we don't have to be victims of this circumstance. We can figure it out. You can figure it out. You don't have to stay in those situations. So we can choose to be a victim and go along with all the other stuff that's bad happening and not have a positive attitude, and et cetera. Or, as you just said, Sharina, I'm going to use this a bunch. We happen to other people, or we can just be that, you know, happening to other people. I love this. So thank you for that. I just learned something new.
Thank you. I love your presentation.
Thank you. Marianne knows I'm going to be around the office. Just, are you happening to other people today?
You'll start seeing it all the time around the office. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you both. I want to make sure we get any questions we have. We got about 9 minutes before the end of our call. So if you have any questions for Monique, she is with us for another 9 minutes. So please come and share your thoughts, share your experiences, questions.
Tarina, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can ask a question. You know, we always talk about achievements and how we need to toot our own horn or whatnot. Do you ever have a situation where you actually want to go and revisit some of those moments where things were not as great? Like, I like to call it like the anti-resume, like the things that made me who I am today.
I think I reflect.
Have you been into that?
I think I do. I reflect on those things. And I don't reflect on them in a negative way, like, oh, I didn't do this correctly, or I didn't do this correctly. I think about those things that didn't go, quote unquote, so great, and how they made me, I'm not saying I'm great, but made me who the person I am today. And I really think about it like in a maze. You know how the maze, you have to follow that path, and you have to get there, and it's twisty, turny, whiny, and et cetera. And I think about that. Sometimes the mazes loop and go to the side and then go back down, and eventually you get there. But if I'd taken the straight route, I might have still not gotten to where I am today. Mm-hmm. So sometimes those loops and et cetera are actually getting you to the correct place, but you had to go through that loop and go sideways to learn and be successful at that point. And so I do reflect on some of the things, and you know how in that moment, people, you know, when something doesn't happen that feels good, they're like, one day you're going to laugh at it, and it feels good to be able to laugh at some of those things that happened, and that made you want to, you know, not laugh at that time. So
yeah, there's definitely power in
something
reflection.
I tell my team when we go through things like that, and I'm using it today, is remember the lesson, not the struggle.
I like that. I like
Use
that.
it.
I like that. Yeah. I think that again, Michael Jordan is who he is because he learned a lot of lessons. You are who you are. You learn some lessons. I am who I am. I learned some lessons. And then it's important to do knowledge transfer, you know, with people that are coming in to this, starting their journey. If you can help them not make some of the same challenge, take some of the challenging roads. I'm going to stick with the journey. Take some of the challenging roads. If you know that a road is dead end, you can't force them to not take that road, but we can tell them, right? So we can tell them, don't take that road, or this is, but you can't force them. So I think it's important too, to take some of our lessons that we learn and knowledge transfer as much as possible, and mentor, right? And sometimes we mentor each other. It's like, kind of, we use mentor, that word a lot, but it's also like, it doesn't have to be someone that is, I don't think that a mentor has to have a higher title than you. I'll say that. I don't think so. I know some very poised, very amazing people that are professionals that I consider confidants, I consider coaches, and that have truly mentored me. And they might not have the title of mentor, but I wouldn't be who I am today without them being there for me. There was one other question about virtual, and I don't think that I addressed it completely, about like, I think it's networking or something to that nature around, you know, how do you do that in a virtual environment? I have had the luxury of being close to an office, one of our main offices. I do want to say this. So that's good, but that doesn't mean anything. Our company has grown amazingly. And I will never forget, and I told you earlier, I've had mentors and sponsors. And I remember as our company grew, I did have a lot of relationships with executives, and, you know, sometimes you have to manage up a little bit. But as our company grew, a lot of the executives that had seats at the table did not know who Monique Griggley was. So as a smaller company, if there were 10 seats at the table, I knew 5 of them. But as we grew, I only knew, you know, the seats got bigger. It was 20. Then now it's like, let's say 30. And if you know 5 out of 30, that's not as great. So one of the things that one of my sponsors came back to me and told me at one point, she said, you know what, you have a great reputation with the legacy company, but you don't have a bad reputation. They just don't know who you are. So this sponsor actually gave me a homework assignment that I had to reach out to a executive every single month. No reason, no business reason, no, you know, have an agenda and make sure that it's a worthwhile conversation. Put the time on the calendar and have a meeting every month. I did that. When I tell you, I don't know why, and I'm not a nervous person. I love to talk, if you can't tell, but I was nervous on the first one, and I don't know why. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I wound up working for the person actually after I did that. So it worked. So don't be afraid to say hello to the people that you don't know, and put some time on the calendar, put an agenda together, and etc. And if they don't want to meet you, all they can say is no. That's it. Don't be afraid of no. Don't be afraid to say no, and don't be afraid of hearing no. So I just wanted to put that out.
Amazing advice.
Thank you.
I really do. I heard once somebody told me, do it scared. If you're not doing something while you're scared, then it might not be worth your time. So they were like, be scared about it, be excited about it, but do it and see what happens. And so that was one of the things that I had. One of the speakers actually at WITI said that, and it just stuck with me for, I don't know, 3 years now. So that was good advice.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is Monique and her journey. I hope I did a little bit of knowledge transfer. I know I learned a little bit of something. So I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you, learn from you. And I was able to share some of my tidbits about my journey. And I'm here if anyone else wants to chit chat ever. If that's okay, Marianne.
Absolutely. Everyone, if you want, you can definitely look up Monique on LinkedIn. We can definitely add her LinkedIn in the chat, as well as everyone else. If you want to stay in touch, you can feel free to put your LinkedIn in the chat as well for us to all keep in touch. But Monique, thank you so much. This was really, really great. I hope everybody enjoyed planning their journey, and I learned a ton. So thank you for your time. David, I will give it to you for a last minute wrap up.
Yeah, that's it. We have a next session coming up right after this on if you're in your job search or what relationship building. Many new events at witi.com/events. We put the links in the chat. So thank you, Monique and Marianne. Amazing session today, and everybody that participated.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend, and we hope to see you next month here with WITI's Lunch and Learn.